that you can literally change your brain and change your life. This is one of the most exciting breakthroughs in medicine, because with a better brain always comes a better life. If you pay attention to me, if you use the front part of your brain so that you can focus, and if I can touch your emotional brain so you remember what I say, and if your brain is flexible enough to learn new things, then you're in for a treat. When you make your brain better by doing the right things, you improve your life. When you do the wrong things and hurt your brain, you make your life harder. Day in and day out, every day, you're either helping or hurting your brain. Did you know that blueberries are one of the best brain foods on the planet, along with avocados, walnuts, salmon, and green tea? But not getting enough sleep decreases blood flow to your brain and impairs your memory and your ability to concentrate. Did you know that increasing blood flow to your brain is literally the fountain of youth? But doing things that decrease blood flow, like nicotine, too much caffeine, alcohol, inhaling toxic fumes, prematurely ages the brain. This program will be divided into 3 parts. In part 1, I'll give you 7 simple principles to change your brain and change your life. I will also give you 1 question you should ask yourself every day if you really want to be successful in your life. In part 2, I will show you how to be happier, more focused, less anxious, and less depressed by balancing 3 important and very interesting brain systems. I'll also teach you a sneaky brain-based strategy to help you deal with the difficult people in your life. And in part 3, I'm going to show you how to make your brain great. You are not stuck with the brain you have. You can make it better, and I will show you how, including how to prevent Alzheimer's disease. And I'm not kidding. This program will also give you a completely new paradigm about why people struggle, along with new insights into healing the brain. For example, I want to tell you about a couple who failed marital therapy. That's right, their therapist gave them an F. Now, how do you get an F in marital therapy? Well, after spending 3 years and $25,000, the therapist told them to get divorced. Well, this made the couple very upset because they wanted to be married. On the television, you see 2 brain SPECT scans. These are the scans that we do in our clinics. They're called functional scans because they show how the brain works, how the brain functions. What they measure is blood flow and activity patterns in the brain. Now, the scan on the left is a healthy scan, and what you see is full, even, symmetrical activity. Now, the image on the right is the husband's scan, and that Swiss cheese appearance indicates overall severely low activity in his brain. Now, this is the pattern that we often see with drug and alcohol abusers. But the scan didn't fit his history because he said he never used drugs and he didn't drink. Now, I've been a psychiatrist for a long time, and I know that drug addicts and alcohol, they lie. And they lie a lot. Right? Am I wrong about this? They lie a lot. So, in front of his wife, one of my first questions to him was, "Are you sure you don't drink much and you've never used drugs?" He said, "Dr. Amen, I have many problems, but that's not it." So then I turned to his wife and asked her if that was true, and she said, "Oh yes, Dr. Amen, he doesn't drink. He doesn't use drugs. He's just a jerk." I chuckled at the comment, but then, in my mind I wondered, then why does his brain look so bad? And so I went through the potential causes in my head. A brain infection. A near drowning can make your brain look like this. Low thyroid, being anemic, being exposed to some sort of environmental toxin. So my next question to him was, "Where do you work?" He said, "I work in a furniture factory." I said, what do you do? He said, I finish furniture all day long. He was doing drugs. In fact, he was doing the worst drug for your brain, which is inhaling organic solvents. So my next question to the wife was, so when did he become a jerk? And she said, what do you mean? I said, did you marry him that way? Do you have father issues that you're trying to work out? And she said, no, when we first got married, he was great. It wasn't until about 5 years ago that he started having trouble. And then she put her hand over her mouth and she said, oh my God, that's about the time he started to work in the furniture factory. Do you think his personality change can have something to do with his job? So as you can imagine, the first thing that I should do is get him out of that toxic environment. So I had him transferred in his company. And then I put him on a brain healthy program. On the right treatment, his behavior got better, as did his marriage. I wonder how many marriages are suffering because one partner has a brain problem that no one is aware of. How do you do marital therapy with this brain? It will never work until you change his brain. Now, looking at the brain has been one of the most exciting adventures of my life. In the past few years, I've come to distill our work into 7 very simple principles. And if you follow me, one, you'll realize how simple these are, but they will change your life as they have changed mine. The first principle is your brain's involved in everything you do. Your brain's involved in how you think, and how you feel, and how you act, and how you get along with other people. After looking at 40,000 scans, I've come to believe that your brain heavily influences the type of person you are. Your brain is the organ of personality, of your character, your intelligence, and your soul. I've actually called the brain the hardware of the soul. Now that leads us into principle number 2, and that is when your brain works right, you work right. And when your brain has trouble, you have trouble in your life. So here are 2 more SPECT scans. The scan on the left is of a healthy person. The scan on the right is a heroin addict's brain. Drugs damage your brain. Do you think the heroin addict has any possibility of living up to his potential? I don't think so. The hardware of his brain is definitely not working right. When your brain is healthy, you tend to be focused, happy, relaxed, loving, effective. When your brain is unhealthy, for whatever reason, you tend to get distracted easily, you're sad, anxious, angry, not as effective. And that brings us to the next principle. Fascinating principle. And did you know your brain is the most complicated organ in the universe? There is nothing as complex as the human brain. Nothing. It's estimated that we have 100 billion nerve cells and more connections in our brain than there are stars in the universe. Information in your brain travels at about 268 miles per hour. Unless, of course, you're drunk. And then things really slow down. If you don't take care of your brain, on average, you lose 85,000 brain cells a day. That's about a brain cell a second. That is what causes aging. Now, with appropriate forethought, you can reverse that trend and dramatically slow the aging process. Now, that's a big promise. But if you pay attention to me, we're going to talk exactly how to do that. Now, the next principle, principle number 4, is absolutely critical. But virtually no one knows it. Or at least for sure we don't act in our society as if we know it. And that is your brain is very soft. And it's housed in a really hard skull. Your brain is the consistency of soft butter, tofu, custard, somewhere between egg whites and jello. And it's housed in a really hard skull that has many sharp, bony ridges. Brain injuries matter. They damage the brain and they can ruin your life. We need to do a much better job at taking care of our brains. Here's an example of a man who fell off the roof. It damaged the left side of his brain. A year after the injury, his wife divorced him because she said his personality had changed. She became afraid of him. He became more irritable. Now, with the right treatment, he got much better. But I remember he was crying in my office. He said, if he would have gotten the right treatment early, it could have saved his marriage. Brain injuries change people's personalities, and nobody knows it. And when people start acting badly, their families get afraid of them rather than something's wrong. We need to go get this taken care of. The next principle is many things can hurt your brain. And many things can help your brain. So let's talk about that, because you want to know what it is. So what are the things that can hurt your brain? Well, we've already talked about a couple of them. Drugs, very bad for brain function. Toxic fumes, head injuries. Alcohol is not a health food. Now, I know many of you are out there and you're like going, gotta have my glass of red wine a day. Doctor says I have to do it. This is good for me. No. The research really says 1 or 2 glasses a week can be helpful for you because a little tiny bit of alcohol tends to balance cholesterol levels. People who drink every day have a smaller brain. And I would just suggest to you that when it comes to the brain, size matters. You don't want a smaller brain. And alcohol is directly toxic to brain function. Lack of exercise. If you don't exercise on a regular basis, that's decreasing blood flow. It's very bad. You'll notice we're going to talk a lot about exercise. Not getting good sleep. People who get less than 6 hours of sleep at night have lower overall blood flow to their brain. And with that comes all sorts of problems. Chronic stress. I mean, we're living in this fast-paced society, often under a lot of stress. And if you don't have a stress management technique, this is prematurely aging your brain. Smoking. Smoking is a disaster for brain function. Now, can you tell the skin of a smoker? How? Dry. Wrinkled. Doesn't look healthy. Why? Because smoking constricts blood flow to your skin. It does exactly the same thing to your brain and prematurely ages it. And did you know too much caffeine can do the same things? Now, I already know some of you are going, okay, doc, how much can I have? And I have to tell you, 1 or 2 cups a day, it's not that bad for your brain. More than that, it's a nightmare for brain function because it constricts blood flow. It also dehydrates you. And it fools you into thinking you don't need to sleep. That's why as soon as you wake up, gotta have my cup of coffee in the morning, right? It's not good for you. You can do without it. Negative thinking is terrible for brain function. Isn't that interesting? That if you focus on what you hate about in your life, your emotional brain fires up, but your thoughtful brain gets colder. So you become unhappy and you make bad decisions. So how you think moment by moment determines in part how your brain works. Okay, now these are things that hurt your brain. Let's talk about some things that help your brain. New learning, like tonight. Whenever you learn something new, your brain makes a new connection. When you stop learning, your brain actually starts to disconnect itself. You always want to have a new project where you're learning something new. A healthy diet. You are what you eat. We're going to spend a lot of time in the last segment talking about brain healthy foods. Daily, vitamins and fish oil. We'll talk about that, as we will exercise. Exercise is literally the fountain of youth, and I'll tell you why. Getting great sleep is important. Social connections. Being with other people, especially if they're good for you. But going to church, being part of a family, being part of a hobby club, all of those things are important because when you're with other people, your brain has to work, right? You have to remember their name and do they have kids and what does that look mean? And all of that is working your brain. Positive thinking, especially gratitude. When you focus on what you love about your life, your brain works better. The emotional brain sort of settles down, the thoughtful brain goes up. You're actually more coordinated when you focus on what you love about your life. So very simple exercise that you can take home. And they've actually found this to decrease depression in people who have clinical depression is just write out every day 5 things I'm grateful for today. 5 things I'm grateful for today. It can be your health, your family, your job, whatever it is. It can be your dog, whatever it is. Focus on it, because when you bring your attention to gratitude, you feel so much better. Interestingly, meditation is also amazing for brain function, and meditation fooled us. Those of us that are brain imaging doctors thought what meditation would do would be calm down the brain. It absolutely doesn't do that. What meditation does is it activates the most thoughtful part of your brain, so that you make better decisions, so that you feel happier, so that you're actually more intelligent. And did you know that making love is good for your brain? Regular sexual activity has been shown to be associated with decreased depression, so it helps your mood, it helps your memory, it helps in pain relief, so when she says, "Honey, not tonight, I have a headache," you can say, well, did you know there are 2 studies with migraine headache sufferers that say having an orgasm decreases pain frequency by 50%? I'm just here to help. And there's a study from England that says 3 times a week. 3 times a week is associated with decreased risk of heart attack and stroke by 50%. We have no medicine that can do that. Right? So many things can hurt your brain. Many things can help your brain. This next principle is really important. And that is, one size does not fit everyone. Most psychiatric problems like ADD, anxiety, or depression, they're not single or simple disorders. Giving someone the diagnosis of depression is exactly like giving them the diagnosis of chest pain. Now, why don't doctors give people the diagnosis of chest pain? Because it's a symptom. There are too many causes. The same thing is true for depression. It's a symptom with many different causes. Chronic stress, relationship problems, financial losses, head injuries, drug abuse, low thyroid, chemical imbalances, even grief. Our research at the Amen Clinics has shown that it is at least 7 different things. And giving everyone the same treatment for this symptom invites disaster. In the next segment, I'm going to tell you about a revolutionary brain-based approach that helps us heal problems like depression or ADD. We do it more quickly and often with natural treatments because we understand what part of the brain that we're dealing with.
من از ترس مبصر گفتم الان کلاس وقت مبصر الان اعلام میکنه رعایت وقت مبصر رو کرده. 2 دقیقه و نیم دیگه مونده. بله؟ 2 دقیقه و نیم دیگه مونده. حالا این 2 دقیقه و نیم به من فرصت بدید ببینم اول کسایی بودن که این از نظر انگلیسیش مشکل داشتن چون خیلی شمرده و چیز. اگه کسی از نظر انگلیسیش مشکل داشت بگه که من یک جوهرش رو ترجمه کنم. براشون اوکی. ببینید ایشون اول به این مسئله اشاره کرد که چقدر رفتارهای ما ربط داره به مغز ما و دیسیژن میکینگ های ما چقدر ربط داره به مغز ما و بعد اشاره کرد چه چیزهایی مغز رو به اصطلاح میتونه آسیب بزن. اشاره کرد به یه زوجی که آمده بودن 3 سال پیش کاپلز تراپیست و بعد گفته بود که از هم جدا بشیم به دلیل اینکه تشخیص نداده بود که این در یک کمپانی کار میکنه که رنگ اینهیل میکنه و قسمت مغزش آسیب دیده و تغییرات رفتاری درش ظاهر شده. بسیاری از افراد و اکسپریانس ما داریم که این اتفاق میفته به خاطر تغییر مغز. دوستانی که این فارسیشو نمیخوان بریکتون رو بگیرین تا یه ربع دیگه بیرون صفا کنین و بعد برگردین. بعد اشاره کردم به این مسئله که چه چیزایی واسه مغز بده. اشاره کردم بیخوابی چقدر بده، سیگار چقدر بده، مشروب چقدر بده، نداشتن سکس هلتی چقدر بده، نداشتن اسوسییشن، ارتباطات سالم، سوشالیزیشن چقدر بده و برعکسش چقدر خوبه. و اشاره کردن به این که مغز رو وقتی ازش استفاده درست نمی کنی و به اصطلاح مراقبت درست نمی کنی، در هر روز 85,000 کنکشن سلولی که باید کنکت کنه مغز از دست میده و مغز سایزش با نوع فانکشن ما ارتباط داره. یعنی اینا که میگن مغزش کوچیک شده، شرینک میکنه، به این دلیلی که مواظبت نمیکنه. از چیزایی که خوبه واسه مغز صحبت کرد، مثل ورزش، مثل معاشرت، یادگیری چیزهای جدید که کنکشن های جدید به وجود میاره. ولی حالا مفصل اینا رو اصلا میبره تو ساختمان مغز و اینا رو ما الان حدود 20 دقیقه شو دیدیم، در حالی که 60 دقیقه است. حالا هفته آینده 20 دقیقه دیگه شو ببینیم. ربطش میخوایم بدیم به این که چقدر میتونیم ما مشکلات زندگیمون رو با توجه به مغز تغییر بدیم. دوستان